And like, why would you think that that is?
I agree. There's a very casual racism in our there's a very casual energy to that in the town. Uh, it's ingrained. It's kind of like ingrained in this town, and we live in a liberal town, a very liberal town. And it's just like, just because the town is liberal, it doesn't necessarily mean that people don't have this racism inside of them, or it's not carried from parents to children, and it's not carried in the curriculum of our schools, and it's not carried in the lessons we learn in history, you know? So
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I think it's also because I don't know where you fall on this, but like I think it's also because of the fact that we just haven't had a lot of like experience with kind of like other different like groups of people and like
Yeah.
ways of living life. It's like a much like kind of like homogenous like white community, like not even a lot of unfortunately African American teachers
Yeah.
on the staff like throughout all like levels of the school that I've kind of experienced, and that I think that also plays a big part because we were having a discussion like in my class today about this, and my teacher was like, when I was growing up, I went to a school that was very much a kind of diverse school, and if someone ever heard you say that, they would not take very kindly to it at all, and probably like confront you for that physically. And I think like that is something that is like very much missing. I think just people, but their relationship with the word is like so desensitized, and they just don't like, even though they know it has the weight it is, all they kind of see it being used is kind of like a word to just kind of gain a bunch of attention for yourself in a very just kind of non-racial way. And people, I feel like maybe they feel like a little bit disconnected from the pain that it carries. Would you agree with that, or?
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. I think it's like, just, there's a prevalent ignorance. That's really what it is. And I think that point before was really brought up and hammered during this Board of Education meeting, which was, you won't make change without diversity in idea, and diversity in opinion, and diversity in the faculty and the student body, and making sure that we are hearing different perspectives in our world that we wouldn't be able to hear just living in our suburban community.
Yeah. Like, what do you think would be the best ways to go about like getting that perspective into schools in general?
Yeah. Well, for starts, you have to hire more diverse staff, teachers. You have to, there's a lot of teachers retiring this year, and what's stopping you from replacing those teachers with teachers of color? And what's stopping you from hiring other teachers that can come in and that are teachers of color? And also, it's really just restructuring our curriculum to kind of get rid of this white-centric narrative that we are taught in classes like AP US History, where we need to really like confront our past. And we need to teach. We need to be honest. We have to be honest that where we live, we back in the day, we had slaves in this very place. We have to confront the harsh truths of where we're from, and our privilege and things like that. And we need to implement more authors of color in our English curriculum. A lot of people are saying they've maybe read one book in their senior year from an author of color. And that's only if you are in AP English. Obviously some people have read more, but on average, you're reading a lot of these books from white authors that are classic books, but what is that doing? You're just reading the same perspective.
Yeah, I definitely kind of agree with you there. Like, I would say that though, like, I have probably never, very few more, at least in school, felt like more uncomfortable with America than at least the early parts of like, at least my AP U.S. history class. But like, that is definitely, I think, a thing that maybe we're heading in the right direction here of kind of like incorporating the way our country was founded in our history. And I think that definitely plays a big role in it. And I know, like, for anyone who's out there looking for a book, I read this as a choice book in 9th grade. It's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I don't know if you've read that book, but it was like just kind of a little bit of a digression here, but it's a great way to, like, I've never really felt more fully immersed in the way like the perspective of like an African American, because it's written from the perspective of an young African American girl
Yeah.
who goes to a predominantly like white school in the suburbs, who also kind of hangs out into her quote unquote hood area like during the weekends, and has one of her best friends from the black friends from the quote unquote hood area get shot by police when he was reaching for a comb, but they thought it was a gun. So of course that kind of gets you from the whole perspective. And I think getting those perspectives and voices in there like are so important, because that really helped me change my perspective. Like in terms of your interactions with other students, like what would you say that the general perspective in a school like ours is on race?
Yeah, I think that we have I would say not everyone in our school is a racist person. Like that'd be crazy to say. Everyone has tendencies, everyone has biases, but I do think that everyone is open to a change of some sort. And I think that a lot of people I know that I associate with try their best to do that, and try their best to keep their mind open and try to consume things from different kinds of people. And even though it's a hard thing to do in our school, you still have to try. But I think that what's going to happen after all these incidents is that what's going to happen is the administration is going to have to put that in place instead of students going out of their way to do that. So I'm hoping that means restructuring our curriculum, and I hope that means a more diverse student body and staff, and I hope that means really holding people accountable for their actions and making an example out of kids who are ignorant, and making an example out of ignorance and learning from that. Because I think that's what the most important thing is. We have to learn from these things and grow, because we can't just be having the same discussion every 5 years.
Yeah, and I think like that same thing we've seen nationally can happen, I think, in our communities too, where we kind of are led to go back in circles and not really getting anywhere in terms of the grand conversation, in terms of making things forward, in terms of a more like community-based level for these kind of incidents in our schools. Because I do agree with you, they are really, really important in terms of like you learn these kind of habits very, very early, and whether it's like just straight out hating like African American people, or kind of treating like such slurs like that with such like a real casualness and like disregard and disconnect from the weight of them and really what they mean, like that all starts very, very early. So what would you like to see in the future? What tact would you like to see schools take?
Well, I guess just going away from schools just for a moment, it's also important for parents to really instill values in their children, and make sure things like that don't slide, and you really teach your kids what's right and the things that you shouldn't do, and what is happening in our world. But going away from that again, the school really needs to get people. They really just, at the end of the day, you have to just get people to experience things, get speakers in to talk about their experiences of racism, get forums, focus groups, people talking to each other about racism that they've dealt with in our school, and hold the administration accountable for really making change. And I think that is going to happen, and I think it should. And I think we saw, like, at the Board of Education meeting, so many of these students are coming forward and saying, yes, this person called me this, and this was my life every day at Greeley. This is my life every day. But it's just like, it's that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's it's a big part, and I think it's like a very subtle thing that kind of like can happen. It kind of slips on the surface because it's not very prevalent, but that casual nature can really, really be devastating. Zane, thank you so much for talking with us today about all these very important issues. And
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it was great to have you on. Hopefully you'll come back again soon.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, that's all we have for you today for our show. We will be back later this week with more, and we may be able to talk to someone else about this.